Hi guys, welcome to this video tutorial showing you how to create a motorway gantry sign in Revit. I'm using Revit 2019 and I've just got the standard template out of the box. I'm in level 1. I'm going to start with putting in a very simple, just a grid line just to keep me on track across the middle of the project. Let's call that grid line 1. And then I'm going to go into my elevations and just put in some levels to control the height. So I'm going to start my project at level 0. I'm going to put this up 7 meters high. You notice I can just put in 7m just to change it into meters. I'm going to add in some subsequent levels above. I'm going to put in one for this the top and bottom of the sign effectively. So that's going to be a meter, and then let's do this 2 meters above. Actually drag them the other way, so take that down to a meter, and let's take that down to 2 meters. So I've got my levels in. I'm just going to quickly rename these. That's going to be 3, and then this is going to be level 4. That gives me my subsequent views in my project. So straight to level 1. And if you wish, you can put another grid line in just to, this is where the footing is going to go, and I'm just going to call that A, so that just gives me a center reference. So structure, and I'm going to put in an isolated foundation, and I've got a type 5 meters by 5 by 4. I'm just going to quickly edit that and just rename it. So I'm going to make that 2 meters deep in terms of the depth of the footing, and I'm going to position that centered on the grid. If we go to a quick 3D view, there's what I have. So I'm going to change this to consistent colors just so we can see what's happening. So back on to level 1, and I'm going to put in a column to set out the support column for the gantry. So I'm going to go to column. I've already got a CHS loaded, the 1219mm one. To get that, it is just load family, browse to the structural column, steel. I'm using British Standard, circular hollow section, and it's the largest one that comes with the library. So I'm using the 1219 by 25, and I'm going to project that up to a height at level 2. Just make sure that I do select it, and I'm going to position it again on the grid. So when we look at 3D, there I've got my isolated footing, and there I've got my column. I'm going to go on to level 2, draw another column on top, this time projected up to level 4, and I'm going to place that in that location. So when we have a look at the 3D again, so I've now got a column here and a column here. So you could put a column in and then split it, but again it's really up to you guys what you want to do. So I've got a grid here. I'm going to select it and I'm going to create a copy of that. So just hold control down, and I'm going to put that out to 7 meters. So that's just going to give me the width of the column. I may actually just make this a little bit smaller because I think it's quite big. So let's make it 2.5 by 2.5 by 2 meters. That's probably a more realistic size. So now we have our footing and our column, and then we have another column. I'm going to put a connection between the two. So back on level 1, you see I'm on grid line 1. I'm going to go to my level 4 view, and I'm going to draw across my support member just to make sure that my grids are intersecting. Yeah, everything's fine. So I'm going to go on to level 4, and I'm going to draw a beam between grid line A and B. What I may also do is just put another grid line in. I'll put that 1500 away, just so I can split the beam I'm going to draw across. So I'm going to use a square hollow section, 300 by 300. So it's quite chunky because obviously this is a motorway gantry. The level I'm placing it at is going to be at level 4. I'm going to come from the center from there to there. You will see that Revit will do the cut back. Oh, I've accidentally got 2 in. Revit will do the cut back at the column, which is fine, and I'm going to go on to level 4 again, I'm going to draw another beam in from the end of this one, from there to there. So when we look, we've got our two beams. I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to go copy, align to level 3. So that's going to just put them down in that position, and then I'm going to draw a square hollow section, the 120 from there. So we've got the 3D snapping on, so it should find it in that position, so it's not valid. I will just draw it in as a column, so I'm going to go to level 3. I'm going to put a column connection in, just change this to a wireframe so we see everything, and fine level of detail. So I'm going to go to a column, I'm going to change it to a SHS 180 by 180, and the height is going to go to level 4, and I'm just going to pop it in at that location. I'm going to just use the move tool and just move it across to the edge of that, and then probably just take it in another, let's say 25 millimeters, and then I'm going to mirror that along the center axis of that beam. So when we look in the elevation, I now have this beam and this one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset them down 300 millimeters below here and here. So we can just extend this back out to the grid line and take this top column again, take it back to the grid line. So once I have my verticals in position, I'm now getting a situation like this. So I'm going to go to my south elevation, and what I'm going to do is just create a couple of copies at some random spaces, then use my annotate tools to align these on center line here, and then use the equalize dimension tool to automatically position them. I then can go in and unconstrain. So now that I've got my structural geometry in, I can now start to concentrate on the connections. So first of all, I'm going to put a base plate. So I select my column, go to steel, and click connection. Now I've already got my steel connections loaded. You'll see that will bring in and put on a generic connection. If you don't, you can click the connection settings and then load in whichever connections you need. So with this in place, I'm going to select my footing or my general connection, and then I can choose my instance types. So if we go to the bottom, I've got a tube base plate, and it takes a little second or two to apply. This may be best done when I just put it into a shaded mode. So we have our connection. I'm going to modify it, so we're going to detail this as this. So let's say we do a 25mm thick base plate. The dimensions I'm going to go based upon a projection. Actually, I'll change it to a round, and then dimensions, and I'm going to project it 250 out either side. Actually, you know what, let's go 400, make it a little bit chunkier. The anchors, I'm going to change the anchor type from this to, let's go to a holding down bolt, and let's put them in 600 deep. And just to show you what's happening, it might be easier just to go into a wireframe. So now I've got my anchors in, I just need to modify the parameters of the base plate. So when we look at the upper bolt, it's telling us the number, and I'm going to change that to 12. And the distance is from the outside of the fitting, so I'm going to go let's actually go more closer, let's go 200, so that's positions them there. If the anchors, we can just change them to a little bit chunkier, to the 30mm amper anchors. Whether we want a washer plate, that would put them in, and I could go, yeah, let's leave it at that. I like to put some stiffeners on this, so I'm going to create stiffeners. The number I'm going to go is 12, so they'll fit in between each of the anchors, and then the stiffener height I'm going to go 250 by 125. Actually, we can increase that a little bit, make them a little bit taller. So when we come out, let's have a look. So there we have the base plate with the anchors going into the footing. Next, I'm going to look at the connection between the two columns. So again, it's steel connection. I will lock down, and there should be one closer to the bottom, tube end to end. again, this is similar to the tube base plate. We modify its parameters. Again, I'm going to go with a 25mm plate between both sides. The dimensions is going to be a projection, but remember that it is going to be round. I'm going to project it out to 250. The bolts, again, similar to what we did with the anchors, we go down. I'm going to use a standard set bolt. It's on a fire, so I'm going to go to standard, then probably take it up to a 24, and then the upper bolts, if we go, there is 20 of them, and the diameter, if we go 125, brings them back in to play. Just make sure the bolts, yep, all looks pretty good. If you want, you can make them a bit chunkier if you wish, so a 30mm bolt. If you wish, we can invert them so you can actually see, and then let's put in some stiffeners. So let's create a stiffener, and we want that to be, let's say, 200 high by 100, and then whether we want to chamfer, we could probably again make them 300, make them a bit chunkier. If you didn't want you can put in an additional one, but I think that's pretty okay for now. Let's have a look at that. So that has bolted that together pretty well. So that now gets me up to here. I'm going to put a plate on the top, so I'm just going to extend that column by, let's say, 150, and I go to my plate tool, and this is where I can pick a face, but I'm going to set a reference plane on the top. Then I can draw a plate, and sometimes if I rotate this round, we can get a look. So if we go with the circular plate option, we pick the center, drag it out to the outside, click confirm, and then just set that to 25mm, and then when we orbit round, we've put a cap plate on top of the column. So now we get to a little bit of a tricky bit. We just need to select that as the cutting face. Go on the top view just so we can see everything. Then I'm going to use the circle or the center end arc. So I select the center of my component. It might just be easier just to go into a wireframe mode. I'm just going to drag these around from there to there, and then close that off, then confirm that as the cut. And what that will do, if we look at it in 3D, just applies that curved cut onto the face, because I'm going to weld this and this. I'm going to go to my steel and actually just weld them together at that point. But for this, I can just go copy, align the selected level, and put that up to 4. So now when we look at it in 3D, we now have the curve cut on the face of this. And then I'm going to connect these two beams together. So it's structure, connection, and then we do have there's a beam end to end somewhere in here. So beam plate, so there we have it, a front plate splice. That will splice the two beams. I may just move this ever so slightly because I'm going to get into an intersection. So if we move this, I'm guessing maybe move it about 50mm, and then I'm going to realign these vertical members in the sign, and then just equalize that, and then take away. So let's go back and look at 3D. So we have our plate end to end. We modify the settings. So again, I'm going to go 15 is probably okay, and I can project that 100 either side, and that will project the plate, and then 100 there. And then we look at the bolts, and we want an 2 2 per side. The gauge distance, if we say 200, that'll start to project them out, so let's go 250, takes them to there. And we want to go again 250. And you can see now what we're getting is here and here, so if we go back to 1, or if let's go 2 there. And let's set the bolt type. So again, I'm going to go with a set 16mm, let's go standard and 20. And then just look at the bolt groups, so we'll start them out at 50. And just quickly go into wireframes, let's have a look. So I've got my 4 bolts, just need to see what way they are configuring. So we go to our bolt groups, if we go 2 on this side, so it's 1 per side. The gauge distance, if we set it to 350, that will take them out to here, and then start distance should be so we've got that situation. You can again, if we just quickly move them out a little bit more, that will move to there, and then if we say 350 that way, and there. So if we've got that connection okay, I can just click copy, align to selected level, that will go up to level 4. If I want to draw some plates to cover at the end plate, so I've got a steel, I'm going to set my reference plane and I'm going to pick it as this, and I'm going to go to plate, go to my right side so I can just have a look. So there's where I want to plate. I'm going to use my rectangle tool and I'm going to find there. And again, we can make that 25 if we wish. So there's the end plate. Again, I can click copy, paste, align the selected level. Let's go to level 3, and there's the plate in position here. I'm just going to go into level 4, and I'm going to put just a grid line down the center. So I've got one at the very center of this, and I call this. Let's go with 1. Let's leave it at D. So this is what we've got. And what I want to do is on the south elevation, if I set the reference plane and set it to grid line D, I can now position some ties in between the vertical members. So I'm going to go to structure, beam. I'm going to go with a circular hollow section. Let's go to 193, and I'm going to come from that point, from there to there. I'm going to select this and just change its justification to center. I should center it there and there. So let's have a quick look. So we've got a plate or a circular hollow section. So I'm going to select my vertical and my diagonal structure and put a connection in there, and I should have a, let's see, do we have, we've got a tube angle bracing. So not quite the one I was looking for, so let's go with the so tube angle, so it's a little bit big. So let's put this in with the, there is a better one. Let's quickly, let me quickly see, there we go. Tube plate bracing. So that gives me this type of connection. Again, I'm going to modify it. Plate thickness is okay. Gusset plate is okay. Gusset plate 2 looks alright. So let's look at the cover plate. I'm going to put a cover plate on here. If we look at the bolt parameters, just going to set it to a set bolt. Standard and 16 millimeters vertical bolts. I'm going to go with 2 and the spacing, let's say 75. So what I end up with is a connection like that. I can then repeat between here and here, so structure, connection, and it was the tube plate, and again we customize it. So I'll set the standard bolt, vertical 2, let's say there's 75, and we're going to put a cover plate in here. So that puts the brace in. I'm just going to select the 3 components and then just do a quick copy from multiple is on. I'm going to copy it from, let's say, that point to here, and then to here. I'm just going to take that one out. So there we have most of this now complete. If I go top of level 3, I'm just going to put a little reference plane in at the front end here. I'm going to call this sign setup. So what I'm going to try and do is put a plate in. So I'm going to go to steel plate. I'm going to go to my 3D view, and I've set my reference plane be my sign set out, and then go in the front view, and we should be able to just draw a rectangular plate from these locations. I may make it a bit bigger, so 2750, and let's say that's smaller than that, so 5 meters, and I may just move it so slightly down, so we get something like that. Confirm that, and let's say that is going to be a 15 millimeter plate. If we just look down on top, so we've now got our plate. I may just need to quickly just move this from this intersection to here, so when we look at our 3D, it's now on face. I am just going to quickly hide them off and hide them in the view. So we now get our footing, we've put in our columns, we've connected it all up, we've put a contour cut in there, and then we've connected and bolted everything off. And one little thing to finish is I've already put in and done some decal types. So I've downloaded some quick motorway signs off the web, and if we go insert, we should be able to go decal, place a decal, and let's place it there. And then I'm just going to quickly use the align tool and align this image with the bottom face there, and then the edge of the sign there. So this thing place, I can just move it ever so slightly, and if we go to a front view, it's quite a manual sort of fudge what I'm doing. So let's say I'm placing that there, and then I can stretch these up. If I take the lock proportions off, I can just quickly drag that from there to there, and I'm going to say that that is going to be that decal type. And if I just quickly drag that across, I'm not sure if I can actually copy this, and I can't, so I'm going to place a new decal. I'm going to go to insert decal and place that there, and just change that to this one. Then I'm going to use again modify and align these together, and again go to my front view, lock the proportions off, and then I should be able to drag it across from here to Just put a little gap in between. So 2 decals added to the face of it, and just to bring it all together, to finish it off, I'm going to quickly put in a camera. So view, camera, let's view it from somewhere around there. So there's my camera. I'm going to change this to fine. Realistic, you can see what I'm starting to do. I'm going to hide off my 3D signs, do something like that, and I'm just going to again, I'm not overly convinced by that, but let's get the idea, and then we should be able to go and run a very quick render off. And there you go. That pretty much is very quickly how to start using the Revit structural tools to detail a motorway gantry. So join me again soon for another structural BIM video.